Slavery. Briefly, I'll get it in a minute. But do you want to talk about slavery briefly? Because it is discussed a lot in circles that black people should be given reparations.
You haven't got the tea bag swimming in there, have you?
Don't worry about that. No, don't take the subject because we want to talk about this. This is a contentious issue. Now,
don't like things too dark, do you?
No, you don't like them too dark. Yeah. All right, now look. So John, listen. All right. Jeff, you're going to balance this out.
No,
John,
I won't tell you why.
Your view on slavery is that the European empires weren't the major cause of it.
No, it was a cultural thing. It was going on for thousands of years. The Greeks had slaves, the Romans, the Egyptians.
I know, but we're talking about black people at the moment.
That's what. Because of multiculturalism and political correctness, that's what it involved. It's all because white people and black people, although there's no way. It was a terrible thing that happened. Terrible thing. I know why I endorsed slavery, but it wasn't just Europeans. That was just the norm of the day. Europeans got involved in it for a couple of hundred years, and then Britain, in 1820, wasn't it, outlawed
it? Longer than that.
And then we had it was about 200 years. It's 200 years. I was looking it up.
200 years.
And then we fought wars over it, didn't we? We got rid of it. America fought a war to do away with it. American Civil War was based mainly on slavery.
I think that was a secondary motive.
There still is slavery.
The primary motive was retaining
in Muslim countries.
It's not right.
In Muslim countries, it goes on.
Well, you're not getting back to them, are you?
Well, it does.
There's slavery in the UK.
In terms of
amongst gypsies, it was recently they had enslaved.
Amongst gangsters, like how many women are smuggled into Britain and stuff.
Sex slaves and stuff. Yeah. It does go on. No, but
that's not a religious thing at all.
No, it's not. It's just money and greed.
Yeah.
So it does go on. I mean, it probably does go on. Sudan and places like that.
What do you say to people that there's millions of blacks out there that have got, for instance, Scottish and Welsh and Irish and English surnames? So where did they get their surnames from?
From the slave masters.
From the slave masters.
Them more easy to pronounce than
but
strange African names, Umbawonga Nonga or something.
Kunta Kinte.
No, but on a serious level, because talking about
serious.
Yes. Yeah. Go on.
They probably forgot their own names on the way over.
So what's the notion of reparation you're talking about?
No,
but America?
No, not just America, but here as well. There's a lot of black people that say they should be given reparations in terms of compensation for the way that their ancestors were treated over hundreds of years.
But where do you draw the line?
Yeah, I mean, what about the Saxons? We get reparation for when the Normans came over and pinched all our lands.
That's right.
And made us speak
Didn't
French.
invite them, did we?
Good idea.
Yeah. And the Celts.
Hey, they didn't make us speak French.
Vikings.
Because if they did, why can't we speak French?
Yeah. I can.
Can you? Bonjour. Enchanté.
No, but you're right. Slavery has gone on for thousands of years.
It has.
But what I'm saying is that in modern history, from the Middle Ages onwards, the focus was on the empires because the empires were the ones that were colonising.
Yeah, but it was still going on in the Muslim world. They were still they were taking people from Spain and people from other areas, France, it was hundreds of thousands of people that disappeared.
Part of the British exploration of East Africa was to stop the Arab slave trade. They were taking they were fighting against it.
And they bought the slaves off of African people. It was something that was just
yes, it was
the Africans just part of their culture, wasn't it?
They did collude, yeah. They did collude.
I mean, they raided another tribe, and like the Red Indians did it in America, didn't they? They'd raid another tribe and take women and take some of the kids to make their tribes bigger. They had slaves. I don't know if they were slaves, but they would take people that would kidnap people, or whatever. They'd enslave people.
Yes, enlarge the genetic pool. I think that was
that's what it was. But it went on. It's not just. It's not. But it's.
The thing is, as the world has become a smaller place, which it has.
It hasn't. It's remained the same size.
It's just another tool to bash the white man with, isn't it?
No, I just think
absolutely. Yes. Johnny Foreigner getting uppity yet again.
Bash the white man with it. It's slave owners.
Well, yeah, I mean, blacks had slaves as well. They had their own blacks, which they would steal from other tribes. I know that used to go on. I've read about that. But
it still does.
The thing is,
it still goes.
It probably still does go on. Yeah, but
it's a tribal thing as well.
It is a tribal thing.
But Britain led the world in doing away with it. Yeah, it's something that had gone on from 1820 right back to biblical times.
Yeah.
And they, in the modern age, they said, right, that was to do with Christianity as well.
Because the world has become a smaller place.
As that has happened, away with it.
We're all trying to be so, get on with it, everyone. And, maybe that doesn't always work.
No. But rather than say, well, England had a lot to do with it, thank you, England, they're trying to bash us now, bash the white man for slavery. And yet it wasn't just white people.
You can't just call the English just a white man. There's white people who live in
the English is
Europe,
pure
all over America.
Pure white man. No. Oh, it was Europeans.
We're not pure white man, we're mongrels. How many times have we been invaded?
We've been one stock for 1,000 years, haven't we, at least?
The English are a mix of, like you said,
English
Normans.
Yeah, but they only where they come
Scots,
from.
Welsh, Irish.
It's all round.
It's all mixed.
A smallish area. It's not like they didn't come from
I
China.
mean, Crit is an Irish name, you know, and you've got an Irish background, John.
I'm not
Right.
Irish.
And I'm sure your background, if you trace it back,
Probably German.
there you go.
Probably.
And
I've got a German surname.
and when your surname, Sophie, where's that originate?
German, half German.
So there you go. But
Yeah.
you bunch of immigrants.
But it's not far as
European
Germany.
at
What's that?
least.
500 miles away. Less than that. 300 miles away. It's not far, is it? It's like coming from
So you
Edinburgh.
can argue that that is a part of British culture, that the
It's
sense
all
of
small.
integration,
Yeah, it
and
is.
that
You know, we've all kind of, so people.
We're getting back to
because we're in
immigration
Ireland.
again. I thought we were going to talk about other issues.
Hang on. Let her finish her
Political
point.
correctness.
Let her
And-
finish her point.
Well, no, I was just going to say, when I think about what it means to be British, a lot of that is a sense of being kind of free thinking, being individual, being independent. You think about British music, British fashion, and there's this real kind of strength to it.
Yeah.
But a lot of that, and the English language, you know, is the greatest literature language because it has so many words, so many different influences, because we've...
It's full of foreign words.
Yeah, we're full of foreign people. And that's...
As we can see
part-
from the...
Yeah, and that is a
Yeah.
part of our identity, and that's the thing that makes us strong. So it's something that we should kind of use.
Yeah.
But you're right, that's going back to our previous...
Yeah, but no.
Can't we talk about the price of fuel?
In no other period of our history have we opened our borders to so many people. We've never had the influx of millions of people, black people, African people, Muslim people, ever in the whole of British history. Never, ever. We had small influxes of people. Never in such a small amount.
We're going to
of
end
time.
up with a coffee-coloured future, aren't we? Because there's a lot of mixed...
Where's my
mixed-
tea?
In a minute, you'll have to wait. Don't
you
keep
should
going
have
about
coffee.
tea.
I'm going to go and get a cup of tea.
Well, let's just finish off because he's got to go in a minute. So, right, you want to talk about the price of fuel?
Yeah.
Taxation?
Go on, talk
Yeah.
about the price of fuel.
Alright, go on then.
Well, it's too bloody high for a start.
Yeah, I
No,
know.
it's too much tax on it, and
How much tax is it? About 60%, is it?
it's
Near-
more than that.
it's
I
near
think it's like
70.
70%.
It's near 70 now.
You know, and it's
Staggering,
like it's
I know.
cost so much to go anywhere and do
They're going
anything.
to put another 3p on it, isn't he?
Yeah,
Apparently.
Yeah, and then not only that, you know, that puts up the price of transportation for food,
Everything.
for any everything's you know is on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
and then that so that all goes on, and then food
Yeah,
goes up,
the-
and then
the-
this goes up, that goes up.
The country is bankrupt, right?
It's bankrupt.
The country is bankrupt.
Every country's bankrupt.
No, this country is bankrupt, mainly by the banking system, but it is bankrupt.
Every country's the same.
Not every country is the same.
No,
There are some
Who
countries
stole all
that
the
do
money?
well.
There's one question.
Yeah.
If we owe about $1 trillion, is it £1 trillion pounds
Yeah,
or
about
something?
$1 trillion. Yeah.
And America owes $14 trillion.
yeah.
Who do we owe it to? And all the other European countries.
Well, you
Who's got
know what
this
it is.
money?
There's like
Who? No,
a lot of
serious
it-
question. It's
a lot of
not.
it- serious
It's
question
paid
is-
China got it?
No. There's a tiny percentage, like less than 1% of people in the world
Who, though?
who
Where
have
do
got
they
the
live?
wealth.
Where are they? Who are they?
Most of them live in America, but you know, like
Yeah, but so we say we're not paying you. What are they going to do? We're not paying you, mate. Well,
Yeah, but they buy government bonds, don't they? That's how they get their money. Gilts and bonds they buy. Foreign governments buy them.
14 trillion. You know, Obama's. He was. What was it? About 8 million when he came. 8 trillion. Now it's 14 trillion.
1 in 7 people in America live below the poverty line, apparently. And it's just
what-
getting worse
you know
and worse,
what-
and
you
it will
know-
only get worse.
Poor in
because
America's not like
more
poor
people.
in Mogadishu, is it? I mean, poor could be because you haven't got a laptop. You've got like an old-fashioned computer,
not in
or you haven't got a flat
not in
TV.
America. If you've ever been to America, some of the poor areas.
You think they actually go without food? A lot of poor people tend to be really fat.
They have got soup kitchens in America. You know,
Don't they?
where they
Why
actually
poor
give food.
people-
I went to around someone's house in Chicago, in the real rough area of Chicago. Went into their house, and honestly, they said to me, "Oh, would you like a chair?" Because they didn't. They had the living room. I think they had a telly in there. They didn't have any seats. They just had a few cushions.
Well,
on
they're
the
white
floor.
Americans.
No, these were black Americans, right? And And they said to me, "Would you like a chair? We'll go and get one from the other room." Like, and they had to go and get. And I said, "No, please don't." I just
was it
felt
like the projects? It was somewhere.
Yeah, it was like, and it was a pretty rough neighbourhood. But I mean, they had nothing.
No,
they were really, really poor.
You know, a lot of them areas.
And she was pregnant, and she had already had 3 kids. I was like, "Oh my God."
They're all run by the Democrats as well. Look at Detroit. I mean, it's like 85% blacks. Finished. Detroit's gone.
Detroit is a really bad
I know, it's gone.
city now.
But it's all Democrats
destroyed.
run these areas.
It's destroyed.
It's finished.
You know, in fact, I read this thing about
downtown
these people who
live
in this camp called Camp Take Notice. It's called, and they're people. They're not all like, you know. These are middle class people as well. There's a woman who they interviewed. She was a lawyer. Her law firm moved to another city, and she couldn't go there for whatever reason. She lost her job. They were downsizing and that, you know. So then she lost her job. Then she lost her house because they got no welfare system. So at least we've got a welfare system that kind of supports
people. Benefits there. People do get welfare, don't they?
Well,
they get food stamps.
This woman had lost her house. She now lives in a tent, and it's called Camp Take Notice. And other people, the doctors live there. They got nothing.
I've heard of that.
They just got absolutely nothing.
But they do get a massive.
We're talking about America now, aren't we?
Everything overlaps, doesn't it?
I've seen that happening worldwide, and it's because, you know, the gap between the really rich and the poor is getting bigger and bigger.
It is getting bigger. It is getting bigger. Especially in America.
You know, if you've got nothing, you got nothing.
Yeah, it is.
But if you've got a nation of people, then that they're fragmented, and all these economic disasters happen, they've got even less chance of sticking together, haven't they? At least you've got, like you had the war here, and you had. England was basically England. White people lived here, and you had all of everybody was deprived of things in the war, and yet people. I wasn't born until '51, but people stuck together. But I can't see people sticking together. You know, you had all those riots in London, didn't you? In the summer, and there didn't seem a lot of unity
caused by white people.
There's probably going to be more stuff like that.
A lot of fragmentation. Because people are not together, are they?
Because no, it's revolt, isn't it? It's going to be the peasants' revolt of the modern day, in my opinion. That's
a lot of it is ghettos, isn't it? There's a lot of areas of London where people just live in their own little communities.
If you think about the peasants' revolt, though, you know, they marched up from Billericay, and you know, they revolted against the government and everyone having all this money, and they were really poor. That is what's happening in modern day times.
Yeah, but the trouble is, people in England just don't give a monkeys. They've got none of that revolutionary spirit. Can you see another Oliver Cromwell coming in next?
I give a monkeys. I
know you do, but how many other people do you? You speak to your neighbours. I speak to my neighbours. I said, what can we do? I said, you can do something if you get together and you campaign.
Don't you think that the media is responsible for that? Because it's constantly portraying that we live in this state where everything's gone to ruin, no one cares.
No, but they're not. They give it the opposite, I think. They say that they're giving this whole idea of a rainbow nation. Everybody's getting on. If there's any people rub up.
Says that?
They talk about knife crime, which is what's that? About 80% black. That Sir Paul Condon lost his job a number of years ago for saying that. Telling the truth, they're saying it's 80% knife. People say it's racist.
No, but what I'm saying is that the media is sensationalist, and also there was that thing that the media scares people. So, like a couple of years ago, because there were so many horror stories about crime and knife crime and violent crime in the media, and they did a survey where, you know, most people were more scared and felt like there was more crime, but statistically there was actually less crime.
Yeah, and this is because of the scaremonger. They very easily. People believe what they read in the paper.
You've only got to see the level of violence that's involved with what happened in the summer with those riots. I mean, that was mind blowing. And I thought it was amazing the way that they just let it happen for a couple of days. I couldn't believe it.
But they reckon it was kind of deliberate by the police because they wanted to send a message to the politicians. That's what I also heard. It's part of the conspiracy theories, but it was like you did get some middle class people in there as well. It wasn't just a working class problem or a black.
Primarily, there was a lot of black people. Then a lot of other people, white people,
joined in.
Youngsters, they joined in as well afterwards.
Yeah,
but I think a lot of the police didn't go in because there was a lot of black people involved, and they didn't want to be accused of racism. Because they've got, what was that McPherson case that happened? You know, under the Stephen Lawrence investigation, he went in and said it was institutionalised racism, and that was decimated the police. Nobody wants to say anything in case you're accused of being a racist or a misogynist. You know, it's like you might as well be a paedophile. You'll get treated better than being. Racism is a terrible thing now to be levelled at somebody. It just ends careers. So they all go tippy-toe around things and. It'd be interesting how this turnout comes in, how it will come out in France, whether or not they'll say, you know, what has France done for this? What, it must be the French nation, we've given them this. Well, why do they hate us? A bit like 9/11 where the Liberals come out. Why do the Muslims
Well, you mean
hate
the
us?
guys, the Jews that had just been killed?
That's what they'll say. They'll say there's something fundamentally wrong with the French nation. Well, it is fractured because they've got a massive proportion of Muslims over there.
Well, I read it was because they reckon it's some rogue guy who used to be an army guy who was.
No,
he's actually a Muslim.
He's been barricaded. They've got his two of his brothers. He's a 24-year-old Algerian. Oh, his folks are Algerian, so he's French Algerian.
I didn't know. When did this happen?
This morning.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They've got him, man. He's up. He might have even been. I think he's going to end up probably killing himself, or he might go out in a blaze of glory. But he's got Kalashnikovs and all sorts of things up there. But already the media, I was saying before, the Interior Minister has come in and saying.
So he's not ex-army then?
No, he's not. Oh, he was actually out in Afghanistan, so he's been trained out there for some reason.
Right.
I think that's why they want to capture him alive, probably to get as much information out of him, where they can find out where he's been. But he's not just bought a Kalashnikov, is he? Or he's been trained to do this. So
his hatred when he pulled the 8-year-old girl's hair as she was running away.
I know, shot her in the head, shot her brains out.
How much hatred have you got to have?
Oh, there you go.
Religious hatred.
Is that what actually happened?
That's what it's all on video, yeah.
Religious hatred.
He got three. And he got a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 7-year-old girl, a little blonde girl, Jewish blonde-haired girl, lovely looking girl, and just got her by the hair and put the gun and blew her brains out.
Oh, how can you do that to someone?
Well, there you go, because
you know, this
he's
is
been instructed. Because Allah tells them, and they're infidels. We're just infidels. They can do anything to us. How can they get somebody like Daniel Pearl, whoever, on in front of a camera, like a video like this, and cut his head off? You know, with swords up in a couple of their videos. How people can do that, and then chanting "God is great," God, you know, Allah is great while they're doing it.
Don't forget, it's only a minority of Muslims that do that.
I mean, it's a big minority.
Algerian Muslim.
A million. Algerian Muslim. Yeah. Mohammed is the Mohammed coefficient. His name's Mohammed.
And what have they found out why he was supposed to be doing this to these Jewish people?
It's because
just anti-Semitism.
It's because of what's happening in Palestine. They reckon that because Palestinian children are getting killed. Also because of the vows, French Muslims being forced to wear vows, and also what's happening in Iraq and in Afghanistan. That's his excuse to go around and do it.
How can you do that to another human
being?
Well,
you're not a human being, are you? But I think that I don't know if they'll capture him alive. I think that they'll go in. He was supposed to have been giving himself up.
They found him, though. They haven't actually gone in and got him.
No, he's held up. They don't want to lose a lot of their men. Then he could have booby-trapped the place, couldn't he?
Right.
I mean, if he's had training out by Al Qaeda, he's an Al Qaeda operative. Must be. He's had training. He hasn't got all this access to all these. You can't just go down and get all these automatic weapons from. He's got them from somewhere.
Yeah, but can you imagine if they abolished the veil here? Now, Sophie, you're a woman.
Yes.
So how would you feel if they abolished the veil here? Do you think that women should be allowed to cover all their head up, or is it a religious thing?
Wear one in protest?
The religious right to do it.
I think there should be cultural. It's difficult because personally, I don't agree with women being treated like that. I mean, I think if you're doing it for modesty, why don't the men wear veils as well? So if the religion was like men and women were both.
I'm going to be in one.
I haven't finished. If the religion was saying that men and women should be modest and shouldn't look at each other unless they know each other or whatever,
mainly women,
so that both sexes were treated like that, I'd be like, fair enough. That's.
So we'd all go around wearing veils.
Yeah, I mean, but
well, Rob, you should wear a veil.
So I don't like the inequality in.
No.
So
I used to live in Luton, and I saw white women that married Muslim. They wore, probably not the whole veil, but they certainly wore the hijab, where you could just see the bare face. But it is about modesty.
So
they can wear them in France, can't they? They can wear the one where they can see but they just can't wear the one where you can only see the eye.
Yeah.
That's what they're not allowed
to
do.
So I kind of feel like if that is your culture, that is how you choose to dress yourself, you should be allowed to do that. But at the same time, I kind of feel that women shouldn't have to.
Yeah, why should a woman have to wear a burqa when she's in London?
Well,
fully,
they do. They are a minority, but they do. They are a minority, probably like 5%.
You can't tell me that that's their wish to do that they really.
Some of them are
want to
happy
do it.
doing it though.
Yeah.
I listen to women and they're happy to do it.
But that's because they've been indoctrinated.
Their argument is they feel safer in front of men.
They've
It
been
isn't-
indoctrinated.
No, no,
It's
that's
because
true.
they've grown up
People
from
like
being
Rob
little girls
keep
and told
perving
that's
over
how
them.
you have to
Yeah.
do
They don't
it.
have had a
People
life,
like you keep
you know?
perving over them, so they say when they wear the veil.
Daft.
Now listen, this is what they say. When they wear the veil, they feel comfortable in front of men. That's their argument.
And,
Yeah,
and
you know-
also that they feel, women that just wear their headscarves, a lot of them I've spoken to, they feel that more liberated because they're able to just be a kind of a person. They don't have to present, you know, a front. They don't have to be so aware of how they look. They don't have to be judged on their looks. They're allowed to just...
It's all because of men keeping the women in control, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah, but don't you think we're sexualising society so much? You've got little girls, 6-year-old girls
Yeah.
wearing
Oh, God,
yeah,
FC
terrible.
UK,
Yeah.
or do you think I'm sexy and
Yeah,
stuff
I know.
like that? And that's partly their parents' fault.
That's
We're
terrible.
sexualising everything.
There was a
Everything is
programme on
sexualised.
TV the other day about these little girls who go to these
was that American Beauty pageant?
American
thing,
Beauty pageant things, you know, and they just look, they're dolled up. They look, you know, wearing an evening gown and loads of makeup, and they're
I
like
know.
5 or something. Like, for
Yeah.
God's sake, you know, let them be little children.
But see, that doesn't help the argument against the veil when we're sexualising everything in society in the West. We are sexualising everything, aren't we? It's getting more and more below the watershed.
Yeah.
You see the poster adverts where, you know, you've got so blatantly...
That dovetails in with that little cultural Marxism, doesn't it, about demoralising people. That's been going on for generations, for the last 40 or 50 years, isn't it, demoralising people. We were talking about it.
Right. All right, well, we're going to carry on about taxation and we'll finish off with political correctness. Right. Taxation, so how would you raise the money? Where would that $1 trillion come from?
I'd cut back on benefits.
Yeah, well, that will only raise what, how much?
I'd cut back
don't
on
think-
foreign aid. We give about £10 billion a year. Well, we're not giving India so much now, are we?
No.
I read that.
This- yeah.
Yeah, I'd cut back on that.
I don't think there's anything you can do about it, to be honest.
What, foreign aid?
No, taxation, raising that money. I don't think it will ever get back to
No.
being in the black.
We'll be
Ever.
paying more and more, won't we? People
It's-
that are working will be paying more.
Because the thing is, as the world grows, there's more and more people, and it doesn't matter where those people are based. You know, there's just not enough food to go around. I read this thing the other day that the more water, well, I didn't read it. It was on the TV, but we're running out of water. Even
Well, yeah, you know
That's
why
what-
that is? Because they're building everywhere.
It's not. It's,
Southeast of England.
no, I don't
Because
just
all
mean
the
England. I
extra-
mean
yeah.
the whole world.
We've
is
already
running
got
out of
hosepipe
water.
down here.
All the reservoirs in all the countries is
Well,
getting
yeah.
lower and
South East
lower.
England,
There's
it's,
the thing is with like food, for instance, right? You can grow more food and more food and more food, right?
Right.
You can keep planting more seeds, which will then you'll get more seeds from those plants in plant. But there's only a finite amount of water,
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
right? You know, there's
Unless
only
they-
whatever that is in the world. You know,
Well, there is another way around it.
Have desalination
Desalination
plants.
plants are very expensive. That's where they take the salt out of the seawater.
it doesn't make any
But-
difference where they're getting it from. There's only so much water in the world, and the more people there are, and more animals, then they need more water to live.
I mean, water just gets replenished, doesn't it? Whatever water you take in, you
You put it out, of course. Yeah, when you
Isn't it? 'Cause
urinate,
I
back
don't think
out.
you can't
But-
ever add to the amount of water that's in the world, can you?
No, but what they're saying is,
It's just that amount.
you know, if you you can't add to it.
Yeah,
You can't make any more water, can
Good
you?
idea.
You cannot make more water. There's only
No,
the amount that's
it's
there,
yeah.
and the more people that are there using it,
Yeah.
then
Yeah, well, 7 billion people in the world now. So they said 40 years ago that, was it 5 billion when they reached 4?
so another 2 billion people in the
Yeah.
world
Yeah.
in 40 years. So
Yeah.
you imagine another 40 years, there'll probably be another 4, because it's probably what's the word where it
Exponential.
Crisis point.
exponential. So it'll probably be like, you know, maybe an extra 4 or 5 million in another 5-10 years.
I mean, some people...
all needing more food, all needing more water.
in India, right, and I know the country well, the middle class, they have about 2 kids, maximum 3. 2, not even that, some people have 1. The poor people, it's a bit like here in a way, in the Victorian times, they have 5, 6 kids because they know that...
This is
well,
what I
they
think will
reckon
happen.
that
If
2 or
you
3 of
really
them
want
will
to know
die
what I
by the
think
time
will
they grow
happen.
up. Yeah.
Right, I think there'll either be a major war, which will reduce the population worldwide, right, or there'll be a major famine that will reduce population worldwide, because that's the only way I think the planet can survive, because otherwise there'll be more people, and the more people there are, it doesn't matter what country they're in, you know, they've got to be fed, and that costs money, and taxation has to pay for it. It's just going to. We're never going to reduce those debts.
There's an argument that says all the foreign aid we give Africa is keeping people alive who would normally have died in famine, and then they're running ahead towards Europe. So, you know,
a lot of the trouble.
You could say that, couldn't you? I mean, there's more and more people being kept alive through modern medicine, through foreign aid. People that would normally have died.
Yeah, I mean, in a way,
it's corruption.
We haven't had a world war since 1945.
Well, let's not wish for one.
No, obviously, no one wants a world war.
Of course they don't.
But I think there'll either be one, or there'll be a massive famine, because
it could be a war over resources. Then
it's kind of like if you get loads of too many deer, and they're eating all the plants, or too many foxes and they're killing all the chickens, you know.
That's right.
They'll say, well, we need a cull on this. You know, they've culled badgers recently, they culled deer.
So how are you going to cull
people? You
or
cannot roll people.
Crash, won't it?
So it'll be a natural.
How will they cull humans then?
You can't cull humans. It's just
get rid of all the ugly ones, I say.
Well, you'll be straight out.
We might, you know what we might get?
Sorry, I look like George Clooney. A young George Clooney, admittedly. And if you squint a bit,
we might get some kind of virus, superbug that they might kill billions of people off.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. There'll be a famine or
Spanish flu.
Aliens might come and wipe us out.
We might be colonising the moon by then. You never know.
We don't know.
We never know.
Up for grabs.
But what I'm saying is, serious point. How many bankers have been jailed?
What's that got to do with?
No, but hang on a second. They've caused. If another bank failed tomorrow, the Bank of England will spend 50 billion or 100 billion buying that bank, as they've done with several banks already in the last couple of years.
Where does the money come from if we've got no money?
They sprint the money. They buy it. They've got gold reserves, so they buy it on the guarantee of their gold reserves.
What do they call printing money? It's got some kind of technical.
Oh yeah, they call it quantitative easing.
You can't print more money. That just devalues your
what we're doing in
currency.
America. Obama does it all the time.
Well, they've done it here a few times. The Bank of England have done it here.
And that means the dollar is only worth then, say, 80 cents or 50 cents. Cause
so I'm saying it devalues your money. They did it in Italy.
Yeah, but it's not all Obama's fault. Bush has got a lot to... Bush left the country in a mess.
We're living in interesting times.
We are. But what I'm saying is that Bush left the country in a mess. 2 illegal wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, which basically helped to bankrupt the country. And now America's in a mess. Anything
don't you think that, like, in a way, we just know too much now? I mean, even probably 50 years ago, we wouldn't have been sitting in the debate and we should go on the net.
Yeah, but you know,
we just would like get on with our job, live our lives, and
Yeah, but most people don't give a monkeys, Rob. Most people don't give a monkeys.
I think everybody cares, and everybody knows everything now about everything worldwide.
Don't you get the feeling? I used to think that everything was pretty stable. It was stable. Things was changed. We got some nice music come out in the 70s and 80s, but it was stable. Now I feel that things are in a real state of flux all the time. Things are changing from one day to another. There's no stability anymore. You just really don't know what's going to happen. We're on the edge of something that could, it could be a war, or it could easily be a war in the Middle East, couldn't it? Iran gets nuclear weapons.
I think Iran will be bombed.
They want to nuke Israel.
There was a war in the Middle East when Iraq.
Yeah, but it
attacked Iran.
Yeah, it was.
Well,
there was millions killed there.
About 3 million Iranians were killed.
When was it?
That was in the 80s.
Long while ago.
But that could kick something massive off, couldn't it? Say he did. He nuked Israel. Just they let him get the bomb. They let this.
Ahmadinejad.
No, I can't pronounce his name.
Yeah.
And then he's got the delivery system, and he nuked Tel Aviv. Because they want to do this to bring about the 12th Imam. He's like their version of Jesus coming back. You know, Jesus is going to come back. Well, they've got the 12th Imam, who apparently disappeared down a well in the 7th century. And by ushering on Armageddon, they're going to bring him on, and then he's going to take the whole world to be Muslim then. And they actually believe it, the leaders of Iran. 12th Imam. Look it up.
Yeah, but then wouldn't they say the same thing about Jesus Christ coming back? As he's going to take all the...
Well, it would be.
Israel would annihilate.
It might be good. It might be a good thing. Maybe they might need an annihilation. Maybe it might be good.
Israel have had nuclear weapons for the last 40 years, and they will use them.
Hundreds of them.
Oh, they'll have to use them, won't they? Because they've said they're going to annihilate Israel. He hasn't said that maybe we're going to, or in couched terms, they've actually said we're going to annihilate Israel. This is what we're going to do. And you get a lot of the liberals. They say I've watched programs and been online, and no, we're not getting it. They've just got this. They want it for medical purposes. You know, so maybe they'll send a bomb, but the bomb or the missile will just have medicines in it or something. You know, and that's why they're all underground. They've got massive bomb-proof areas where they're developing. They've got these centrifuges, part of the way in which they enrich uranium for nuclear weapons. But all these are now, they've built them underground, so they can't even, I don't know, I suppose to get to them you'd have to nuke them. I don't know how far underground they are.
Followed the Israeli example,
which is
building underground.
building underground.
Well, yeah, Israel is only the size of.
But it's going to happen.
Very
I mean,
small
this is all going to. This could happen this year. It's going to happen. I mean, it's going to happen.
Well,
I think
didn't they say 2012?
Yeah,
Iran
a
will
real
be gone.
tipping point.
End of the world?
December 21st, I reckon.
December 21st, the day after my dad's birthday, so we'll have a party before we go.
Yeah. Well, that's what I reckon. But right, well, look, just finishing off because we didn't quite finish off on political correctness, did we?
We've been talking about that all the time.
No, we're talking about immigration and Islam, your favourite subject for a while, but you know, I mean, we just got into.
Well, how did political correctness start?
Yeah.
Well, I've got an article here on cultural Marxism, and it was actually started by a guy called Gramsci. It started after the First World War when they thought that that communism, that all the European countries would just fall like dominoes and the workers would rise up. But then they realised it didn't happen because the average worker was so wedded to his idea of morality that it was enshrined in Christianity. And to the communists, Gramsci in particular and some other guy, there was a few of them, they were Jewish people actually, Jewish Marxist thinkers.
So this is Jewish conspiracy?
Yeah, whatever. But he saw that Christianity was just a product of the ruling elites to keep the people in their place. So what they had to do was, he saw that they had to break the average workers, the vice-like grip of Christianity and morality, and then they could change things. So Gramsci, they formed a Frankfurt school in Germany, Cancer Frankfurt school, but because Germany was getting a bit fascist at the time, they didn't want to call it the communist school, they called it Frankfurt school. And then when Hitler rose up, they had to leave because it was Jewish persecution. They went to Columbia University in the States, and then, but part of it was to infiltrate all aspects of society, like education, government, the church, and agitating groups. And also, they coined
A phrase?
No, it was coined. We're progressive. Lost my thread now. What are they called? Oh yeah. Criticism, theory, critical theory. You know, you get all criticisms. When I was at uni, I did a year doing critical theory, and what that does is criticise everything. But mostly, it's about criticising white males, white men, and what Christianity's done. So you criticise it, and that's how feminism rose up, by criticising patriarchy. Feminism, then they said, well, it was patriarchy. It's all men. It's a male-dominated term. So from feminism, we got easy abortion. Abortion came directly through that. No blame marriage, so that fragmented families. Because the whole idea behind it was the collective, to fragment families. So in fragment families, people then are just thrown apart, there's no central cohesion. Get into the universities, because he knew it would be a long march through culture, it would take a while. So he got into a lot of the political thinkers in universities who taught it to their students, and that's what happened in the 60s and all the radicalism, and I was bang into it. I thought that was great, you know, all the freedoms, but demoralised people. So then you got was to promote promiscuous sex.
And this Gramsci guy, he's still alive, is he?
No, Gramsci died.
So, and this is what he wanted to implement.
He did. It has implemented
so
it. Because it actually, what happens?
And what's the point of it?
To get where we are now, to destroy the fabric of civilization.
Well, why would he want to do this?
Well, because then Marxists can rush in, and then because it's all chaos, and then the people can just rush in and take control of everything. Then you'll have martial law. When everything's just fragmented and nobody's got anything to fall back on. People have been demoralised. Remember, you can't conquer a moral people. First, you have to demoralise them. You separate them from their morals, and then they can't see what's happening. They can't see that things are changing. They think that their ideas. All progressives think that all these ideas are very, very good, but they're not good because they're actually unravelled. What
I don't understand, right? It's like that's like me as a 40-year-old man saying, "I'll do this to society through these means," and then at some point in the future, when I'm long gone and dead,
they did. They were dedicated people.
what's the point?
Well, because they were dedicated people. It was his,
Get a fucking life.
he didn't want
You know what I mean?
But these guys were theoreticians, brilliant theoreticians.
So this guy had a great theory to do all these things,
He
which
did.
I can see
He did.
those things are happening. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But so at some point, some ancestor of this, what did you say his name was?
Gramsci.
Gramsci.
Antonio
Presumably,
Gramsci, yeah.
some
an
point,
Italian.
some ancestor of this Gramsci, or at least follower of this, is going to rise up and go, ha! It worked.
Yeah, but
now we're marching in and
what
taking
about
over,
now?
and
It's
then they're going to go fuck off.
No, it's an ideology, isn't it? It's an ideology that is implemented. That's what was implemented. It was an ideology. He knew in his lifetime he wouldn't. It's taken at least a generation for it to get like this,
Yeah.
and to undo it will take a generation. They have to push it right back to the 60s again, and
Right.
before that it started. But it's something that's so indoctrinated. I mean, I once read the term that all political correctness is Marxism with a nose job. It's Marxism. It's cultural Marxism. It's got into the culture
Right.
where nothing means anything. There's no solidity or fluidity. Everything's up for grabs. Everything's criticised, stripped right back.
Yeah, but we're not allowed to criticise. That's the whole
I know
point.
you can't, but that's under the guise of tolerance. We were talking about this earlier. There is no tolerance. Look, for instance, you've got the Anti-Fascist League. I'll just finish this thing. But you've got the English Anti-Fascist League, who attack the EDLs for expressing a freedom of speech to say that we don't want this mosque built here. The anti-fascists are anti-fascists, and fascism is all about totalitarian. You can't have in Hitler's Germany, you couldn't have a point of view that was against Hitler, otherwise you'd just be a knock on the door, you'd gone. But the anti-fascists are trying to stop people from having a point of view, and they call themselves anti-fascists. It's like everything's got turned on its head, where words are, it's a bit like George Orwell's 1984. Tolerance means intolerance. Yeah, you're intolerant. You're intolerant to anybody who's got a different point of view to this line that you're. It's a bit like being hypnotised, like a chicken in a line or something. You can't think out of this box, and yet it's supposed to be all liberating and liberal. Yet it's really confining and narrow. You've got to adhere to this line, and young people now are the worst for it. They just. My son is like, well, I'm like the radical, thinking the way I think, and he's like, I see him as being a person who's been indoctrinated. Yet when I was young, it was round the other way. I was like a 60s kid. I was grew up as a teenager in the 1960s, listening to rock and roll. My dad was stuck in the dark ages, I thought. But I can see with my son, because he's been at university, he's been really indoctrinated by all these.
It's part of the culture now, though.
It's part of the culture.
I mean, when we did that radio show with the
It's
guy,
frightening, really.
when we did the radio show with the
He
guy,
thinks it's bad.
John,
No, he thinks I'm a right-wing.
Yeah.
You think
fascist.
that what has happened is a bad thing.
I think, yeah, it's terrible. Yeah, it's made.
it has in some ways.
it's made
You're
it-
scared to say things. I mean,
We can't even fight a war properly anymore based on it. We've got to now build an infrastructure. We can't just go and bomb people like Afghanistan. That's because we have to fight a war and have a plan of how to put things back together again. Whereas one time we just thought, well, Hitler's evil, we're going to fight him, and even like bombed civilians, didn't they, in Dresden and Hamburg? You know, Hitler did the same in the East End, but they didn't have all this.
Dresden.
They didn't have all this soul searching, thinking, well, why did They had a clear plan that this is what we have to do. This is how we have to defeat these people. We haven't got a plan. There's no plan. There's no plan to kill, to defeat the Taliban, because you can't do it. You can't. You can find somebody. How bad it's got is somebody can be planting a bomb, and he's got to have permission to shoot this guy. But if this guy then catches on what's going to happen and walks away, they can't attack him. God knows the pressure that those soldiers must be on. We're fighting a politically correct war.
The problem there is, though, they're not fighting a whole nation, are they? They're fighting a part of a nation.
They're fighting an ideology, though. But Nazism was an ideology, wasn't it?
But they did have the whole German nation fighting on one side.
Yeah.
we had the guy from the English Democrats on, which caused all that trouble on the radio show. Do you remember?
That was over nothing. Yeah,
that was over. No, it was over the Dale Farm evictions in October. And what happened was that he made the point about the Irish travellers coming over with the law of trespass being changed. Yeah, all right. And then he made the point about a point system for migration. That's all he said.
Yeah.
And then all hell broke loose. We had Ofcom complaints, this, that, and the other. I had to do a follow-up interview. And what did the follow-up interview? One of them involved, shall we say? What did it involve? I was desperate to get older people that were very pro-traveller. And I couldn't get older people. I did eventually.
No one's pro-traveller.
Yeah, no, I did eventually get.
Travellers might be pro-travel.
They don't travel enough in my book. They just stay where they want to stay and just go
But the point is that you feel so confined, you can't say certain things,
No.
basic facts, and that's where I think...
Well, that's intolerance. That's what I'm talking about. There's no freedom of
maybe
speech
on April
now.
Fool's Day we should have a non-PC
There's
day,
no freedom of speech,
you know, where you can say what you like without offending people, you know.
So what you're saying basically is freedom of speech isn't actually freedom of
No.
speech, because if it were, you could say what you want.
Exactly.
But you can't say what you want because of political
You can't
correctness.
say, for
It's not
instance,
freedom of
I
speech.
get your point there.
Yeah.
I
If
do
you
get
think
that
about
point.
it, yeah, it's very narrow.
yeah.
Yeah, it pretends to be
Because
everything but.
if there were freedom of speech, you'd be quite open to say, I hate that person or that race or whatever. But that
No, they'll lock you up now.
Then they'll lock you up. They'll say,
They'll lock you up, yeah, you
if
can't
that
say
was
it.
the way you
That's
felt.
But Islamics can have hate speech, can't they?
Right.
Because remember, you only ever get done for hate speech if you're a white person.
So are you advocating
You can't be
hate
racist.
speech or
No, not at all.
denouncing
No, only white people can be racist.
Only white,
Isn't that right?
white people can be racist.
No,
Can't
black can
be
be racist
No,
against
they
other
can't.
blacks.
No, it's
No,
not.
I've heard that where
prejudice.
black people go, oh, you know,
Yeah,
you're,
but they can't.
you're
Technically,
not.
they can't because they don't. You know, racism is all about.
No, it's against
Power.
another race.
No, it's not.
So, like, if you were an Italian and you had something against, you know, Polish,
I know.
then you could be
You're seeing
racist.
it. You're
against
seeing it as I'm seeing it, but technically, some liberals actually believe that white people are born racist. You can't help but be a racist because of how we're brought up.
No, I
McPherson said
I think really
institutionalised racism, didn't he?
gone
in the
back
police
to
force.
bloody racism again, but I really think that like racism is best described in a kind of most basic way as like football.
Yeah,
Because if you're a Man U supporter and you want to go and like play, I don't know,
it's a tribal thing.
like
Well, it's tribal.
Birmingham or
Politically,
something,
a black
they
person
they
can't be
can have-
racist to a white person. You can't be racist. He can be prejudiced.
It's a tribal thing.
But
It's like-
racism is a
There
political
you're-
thing, because racism you have to be a supremacist, you have to have the power. And they're saying me as a white man can be racist against a black person because I have all the power of England and all the power of a white bureaucracy, a white government behind me, a white power.
You still get
system.
black people who are racist.
Yeah, but
against,
they can't.
against
But
Muslims
politically, you
or
can't be. You can only a white person can be racist. A
No,
black
I
person
can't
can be
believe
prejudiced. You have to look it up.
I know where you're
I read
coming
about
from,
it all
John,
the
but
time.
I
I
mean-
know what you're saying. You can be. I think it's crazy. Racism is hatred. Hating
I've
something
met
because of
plenty
colour
of
of
black
their
and
skin.
Asian people that have been racist.
Well, that's
it's
what
not
they're
that.
saying.
It's against it's
but-
against the race.
But in political correctness, as they see it, a black person can't be racist.
But black people are just as racist as white people, and
I have
Asians
to
as
wind it
well.
up here because I've got to go.
I know, and Asians.
Can I just give you one instance of it? Take half a minute.
Go on.
You had that Stephen Lawrence, a massive thing. That was racism in their book, whether they got these guys or it was classed as racism. Now, on the same week as Stephen Lawrence, when they were retried and those guys were found guilty, there was another guy in East London, a white guy, and these black guys got out of a truck, about 10 of them, chased him down the road, and he was knifed in the neck. They killed him, and yet that wasn't considered racism.
Oh yeah.
And his mother said, "Oh, it can't be racism either because he's got black friends." And none of the media took it up. But if the boot had been on the other foot, that would have been. Imagine everywhere. They
It's
would have
like them
put
Somalian.
Can't be racist.
It's like them Somalian girls that beat up this white girl. Remember?
Yeah,
A couple of months
yeah,
ago?
Muslims, yeah.
They were let out because
Calling her
they were drinking.
An
And they said,
infidel bitch and a whore.
yeah, they got away with it because the judge said that
They're
it's
not
not in
used
their
to it.
culture.
And you got that woman in the same week. She was a bit. I don't know. She was on a tram or something in London with her baby, and she was surrounded by ethnics.
I
and
saw
everything.
that, yeah.
And they took a kid off her, and she was put in prison for a few days. And really, I don't know if she's got the kid back yet. And yet they let these because these Muslims, they're not racists. They can't be racist because they're.
Well, that's definitely wrong. Because you can be
I'm not
racist
making it up.
against another race.
I'm not making that up. It's so true. We talk about it a lot.
Racism is about colour, is it? It's not. It's
about
about
hatred.
race.
It's about hatred.
It's,
It's
you,
better than a
hate,
scale.
race, you hate another race.
Race is an extension of your family, which is why where you know when you go to work, you get the black people sticking together. Generally speaking, the white people stick together, and the Asian people. It's like an extension of your family. That's why subconsciously people stick up for their own race.
All these terms, though,
Subconsciously, I can feel that train coming.
I know, subconsciously. But the point is that there's good and bad in everyone. That's the.
But all these terms are
point.
to shut you down, telling you to shut up. Islamophobe, racist, homophobe. It's all saying shut up. You haven't got a point.
In your
to shut
next
up.
life, John, I think you're going to become a Muslim. Got a feeling.
I think that
We'll leave it there.
might be coming sooner than you think.
That's all right.